This is Dr. Karen May with Empower Hour Live. Welcome. It is a beautiful day here in Michigan, and today we are going to talk about food as medicine and the difference between diet versus nutrition. And so we have a couple of fun things to cover in the few minutes that we're together. But I would love for you to put your comments in here. Also, make certain that if you have topics and ideas that you would like to hear about, I'd love for you to send them to us too. So put them in the comments, send us a private message. We'd love to be able to see what you want to hear about as well. So again, my name is Dr. Karen May. I'm the owner of Momentum Health Centers, and this is for educational purposes, but I'm going to give you some action steps. Just know that you need to make certain that you're following recommendations and guidelines that are fit for you. But know that our heart and our intention is to help educate you. What I've learned is that knowledge is not power. It's actually useless without an action step. And we're going into a beautiful weekend where we are honoring and celebrating our military and our fallen soldiers and people who have served our country. And so we get to stand here today. You get to listen. I get to stand here and talk because of the freedoms that they provided for us and that the sacrifices they made for us. So please make certain you take and use Memorial Day for what it is as well. Spend some time in gratitude and thanks. So, but let's hop in here. I put in the trailer before this is, are you going to feed or are you going to fight your disease processes? When it comes down in simply with food, there is lots of research out there that I could put into this, but I'm going to appeal to just the logic today. Many people have just gone so far past understanding what we put into our body very much determines how our body is going to function. And it's no different than like trying to put gasoline into a car. If you try to add a gasoline additive to a car that's on an empty tank, it's not going to help. And so if you are not also putting good gas into your car, it's not going to help. Because your car is not going to run like it needs to. And so the warning lights go off. Well, that's chronic diseases. All of those little warning lights, like when your check engine light comes on, that is your car's telling you, hey, something's gone wrong. Well, that's the same for us. When we have high blood pressure, when we have constipation, when we have chronic headaches, when we have cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all of those are warning lights that our body is trying to tell us, you got a problem. And so we always go back to the foundation. What's the first thing that we can do? Go back to our foundation. And that's what we put into our body. I know I've said this numerous times, but we are, out of 100% of our health, 70% is the food that we put into our body. 15% is exercise, 5% is called epigenetics. It means it's something that we can't control. The environment around us literally changes our DNA, and it's stuff that we can't always control. And then 10% is actually genetic. So that's when people say, well, my mom was diabetic, and so my grandma and everyone in my family's been diabetic, so I'm going to be diabetic. Don't own that. Understand what's really genetic. Those are the bad habits we're taught by those that have raised us. We're taught to eat, stress eat, health eat by those that raised us. We're taught how to handle stress by those that raised us. We're taught to, good sleep habits and interpersonal relationships. Those are all taught by those that have raised us. And I say family, but other people have been raised by others. So understand that the environment that we're in plays a huge role in how it shapes us. So at the beginning of, I guess at the end of March, I had talked about default patterns. When we get scared, when we get backed into a wall, when we don't know what is going on, we go back to our default patterns. And the default patterns are how we handle stress, how we eat, how we sleep, all of that, right? But what got us to where we are now isn't going to serve us to where we're going to go or where we want to be when it comes to health. Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Dr. Stone. Thank you for joining me today. And I understand that when we go back to these default patterns, a lot of them are old. old because it's something that's attached to an emotion that got us into where we were at. And unless we actually break out of those, we're going to struggle. We have to say no to those default patterns because they're not going to help us. So the very first one we're always going to go back is food. When we get stressed out, many people comfort eat. What are you going for? What is your comfort food that you're going for? And if you're consistently eating food like substances, I take that from Michael Pollan. He's a food author. He's just a journalist, has some amazing books. But I loved when he labeled them food like substances. Uh, think processed American cheese. Think about all of the stuff that sits on our shelves that doesn't go anywhere, that it doesn't really expire. There's an expiration date, but it's not because it necessarily goes rancid or bad. It just goes stale and just sits there. We have to eat food. So think about it in this way. Food, if you left it sit on the cupboard, it's going to break down. I don't care if that's frozen food that you pull out, frozen vegetables, frozen fruit. If you let it sit out long enough, it's going to get bad. Same with meat. Same with the vegetables out of your garden. It's all of that. If you let it sit out, will go rancid. Well, guess what? That's a good thing because it means it's real. It means that when you eat it, it is going to nourish your body and break down in your body into the right components that our body needs to heal and repair. Those are the foods that will fight our disease processes. But the problem is the majority of Americans are obese. It's just the fact. And so when we're obese, we know that with obesity comes a lot of chronic health conditions. Doesn't mean you're going to get all of them, but those are those genetic ones that we say our family has, so we're going to get. It's not the case. We know that type 2 diabetes in 2016 was proven it can be 100% reversible with nutrition, exercise. It's called lifestyle modification. But it's not easy because it's easier to pull into a drive-through and grab something quick. But I challenge you to say that it's cheaper because by the time that adds up and adds up, it's expensive on the budget now, but it's really expensive on your health later. How much are you paying in prescriptions? How much? And again, there can be life-saving. So I'm not saying stop prescriptions. I don't prescribe them. I'm not telling you to stop them. But if you made just some modifications, few simple small tweaks, what could you do? So that's when we have to look at food as medicine. And when we choose to invest into good food, I'm looking at in my neighbor's backyard, I'm seeing planter boxes and gardens and people tilling up. I have a tower garden that we are growing some of our own vegetables in. Take some time. If you don't grow them, your neighbor does. But farmers markets are starting to come back. Support your local farmers. Even with Meijer. Meijer is locally where I shop. They have local farmers that they buy from, local within a region, within the Great Lakes that they purchase from. Support the small farmers and it supports your body as well. So food has to be medicine for you, not food like substances. So are you going to feed your disease processes or are you going to fight them? You got a choice. So here's a couple quick application. When it comes down to it, we're in a holiday weekend, right? So we know the people are going to be eating chips and having fun and whether it's just with your family or you're gathering in 10 or less, you get to make a choice. And sometimes you're just going to feed the disease process. You're just going to. But when you choose to fight it 80 to 90% of the time, you can feed it a little bit and you're not going to express all this chronic diseases. When we look at overall inflammation, because that's the basis of every disease, we want to balance out inflammatory foods, which is all of the kind of the crap, the food-like substances, and I tell people that's a lot of grains and dairy and sugar products. If you're going to eat a lot of that, fried foods, you got to balance it out with some healthy foods. And the average American eats 28 unhealthy inflammatory foods to 1 anti-inflammatory food. And that is chronic disease. Chronic disease shows up when it's 10. And you start to get symptoms, not even fully expressed chronic disease, but when you eat 10 to 1 inflammatory foods to 1 anti-inflammatory food. So what I tell people is when you're looking at, again, eating whole foods, have a cup of crap a day. but then the rest has to be anti-inflammatory. So if you know that you are going to go to that backyard barbecue and you're going to have your famous potato salad and potato chips, I don't know, I'm just picking something, um, please understand, then eat good the rest of the day. Make certain you're getting vegetables in at every meal, making certain that you're balancing that out. So think about a cup of crap a day. That's about it. Whether that's grains, dairy, sugar, all combined, that's alcohol too, keeping that in mind. But that balances out because then the rest you're eating is vegetables and fruits. And so when it comes down to it, a cup of crap a day is the max of what you want. But then when you do eat, you want 2 times as many vegetables as you do fruit. And the reason being, fruit has lots of nutrition too, but vegetables are more dense in nutrition and lower in sugar, even natural sugar. So 2 times as many vegetables as you do fruit. And if you can stick with that the majority of the time, you're going to see blood pressure come down, weight come down, acne come down, constipation get better. All of those little things that are those warning lights that you think are normal, they're not. So listen to your body. So here's a couple ways to listen to your body. So let's say you're really inflamed. You feed the food-like substances all the time. You're not fighting your disease processes. This is where I talk about poop. Poop is super important because food in has to come food out, and your digestive tract is the base of where your immune system is, how we absorb nutrition. And so if you don't poop every day, you have a problem. That's constipation. And honestly, for health, it's think about a baby. A meal in is a meal out. What you are eating for breakfast should be out in the early afternoon. You don't like two times a day of eliminating through poop. It's a good thing. And when we're looking at poop too, poop should be log-like. It should be like a nice healthy brown, medium brown color. It shouldn't be pale. It shouldn't be white. It shouldn't be black. It will go, if you eat a lot of greens, it will go dark. I can tell you that one from this morning. But understand that we should be, about 5 to 6 inches long, log-like, little few cracks in it. It shouldn't be mushy all the time. It shouldn't be diarrhea. It shouldn't take you hours in the bathroom. It shouldn't even take you 15, 20 minutes to have a bowel movement. So if you are having those issues, that means you're not healthy on the inside. And still go back to food as medicine. Start there. And so about a cup of crap a day, cup of food that like substances, because I realize I just talked about poop. So a cup of food like substances, meaning it's not whole foods a day, is okay. About 2 times as many vegetables as fruit or higher, that's healthy. And then we also have to make certain we're hydrated. So you want, I know you've heard 64 ounces. Some people will tell you half your body weight in ounces of water a day. I'm just telling you that if you have not been drinking water and you try to drink 64, 96, 128 ounces of water a day, you're going to be like a dry plant and the water is going to go right through you. So make certain that if you're not used to drinking water, that you work your way up cup by cup. Get to be like a hydrated plant so then your body actually utilizes it instead of goes right through you. So you can just do simple things. Eat real food. Make certain it's going to rot if you left it out. Eat about 1 cup of food-like substances a day. The rest of it needs to be food as medicine, foods that are going to break down. You want to make certain that you're having a good, healthy bowel movement at least once a day. Otherwise, that's a warning sign for you. And make certain you're hydrated. 64 to 128 ounces, depending on where you're at and your exercise level. I mean, there's a lot of different things for that, but a good 64 ounces is good. So before I hop off here and keeping it short today, any questions? Do you have any questions? Any advice on meat? Like eating meat, Rita, quality of meat? I mean, I could go on forever in meat. Is it healthy? Is it not? So give me, hi, Nance. Thanks for joining us. Of course, I remember you. You're right. Simple, not complicated. You are very right. Rita, so I don't know if you're typing in here. Meat for me, meat is loaded with protein and it's loaded with vitamins, especially B12, iron. There's a lot of things that constitute in meat. There's a camp where you need to be vegan and for multiple reasons. There's a camp that you need to be completely meat eaters for multiple reasons. And everyone seems to have research to back their side of it. Here's what I tell you. If you eat meat, you want to know where it comes from. because if your meat eats corn and soybean, then you're eating corn and soybean. So, or if they're eating grains. So meat can be very inflammatory. The other thing is you have to balance it out. So I personally buy my meat from a small farm here near my house. It's called Smith Family Farms. So I don't get anything for promoting them, but if you smithfamilyfarms.net, Ben and Kim are awesome. But there's plenty of local farmers. Just make certain that they're getting grass fed and grass finished. And that finished part is pretty big deal because if you take a grass-fed cow, which it's loaded in like the grass is loaded with anti-inflammatories, but we can't digest it. So the cow can. They have those four stomachs that do their job. And so grass-fed, grass-finished meat is very lean. It's higher in omega-3s than even some fish. It's leaner, most of it's leaner than chicken. So lots of good stuff behind that. But when they grass finish it and they just, or excuse me, when they grain finish it to fatten it up, 2 weeks of grain finishing undoes the process of the healthiness. So just make certain if you're buying from your local farmer, get them to do grass fed and grass finished. Grass fed means hay, but it also means just roam, get the good stuff. So totally different quality and also humanely in how they're raised. Same goes with pigs. Let them go and root around. But you still don't want that to be your only meal and the only food. So you still need about a quarter of your plate should be protein, whether you're vegan or you eat meat, should be protein. A quarter of it should be a starchier carb. And so think potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squashes, and a half of your plate should be vegetables. You should get some good fats in there too, so that whether you're using avocado, you're using nuts, you're using I use avocado oil. If you're using olive oil, coconut oil, if you're using those types of oils, fat is important for our body too. So, but what's not important is a bunch of grains, dairy, and sugar. Again, not that you can't have them, but put them in relationship. So Rita, hopefully that answers your question on meat. You need to eat it, but where I can agree with a vegan is we do need to eat more plants. They just eat grains and they have other reasons for being vegan. I would choose to eat ethically and raised source meat, and but it's still, everyone needs to eat more vegetables. So hopefully that answers your questions. So any other questions on there? Dr. Stone, if you are still on, I would love a question that would come from you. You and your intellectual brain are awesome. He does it really well. I met Dr. Stone through CrossFit Gym many years ago. He has a huge heart and helps people out like you wouldn't believe. And he is always pushing people and striving to be the best. So a little plug for him. He is also big into Dave Ramsey and works with people and families to get out of, to be in financial freedom. So kudos to Dr. Stone for doing that too. Any other questions before we hop out of there? I saw that my friend Tim in Traverse City joined us. I don't know if he's in Traverse City or Costa Rica because he has some fun places. But if you don't have any questions, we're going to hop out of here. Just know food is medicine. It's very important. You cannot eat your way out of you can eat your way out of bad habits, but you got to really, really focus on getting good food in there. Again, a cup of food-like substances, foods that are really not food, a day, you can process that, but the rest of your meals need to be food as medicine and food that breaks down. 2 times as many vegetables as fruit, making certain you're getting hydration in and water, about 64 to 128 ounces, depending on your body weight, and make certain you're pooping at least once a day, and it's log-like. So those are my practical advice, tips you can take a look at, and we will catch you next week. Don't hesitate, we are having another webinar focused on neuropathy on this upcoming Wednesday, so make sure you hit our events page. I'd love to see you there too. Any other questions? I don't see any coming through. Thank you for joining us. Have a blessed Memorial Day weekend. Again, honor those that are have fallen for us so we can actually have the freedom that we enjoy. So thank you very much and have a great day.